As I ran hastily into the back corridor, Liu Ruyan didn't notice my figure. I looked up at the big screen. Only one plane took off. It looks like Liu Ruyan has already boarded the plane. I found the staff. Can you let me board the plane? I want to find someone. I really want to find someone. The staff smiled politely. You're inconvenienced. This flight has been cancelled. This sentence was the last straw that crushed me. I cried like a peacock. I beg you, let me get up and look. I'm only looking at one person. After I still got the wrong answer, I cried, lying on the ground, not caring about my image. Liu Ruyan called me. I heard the phone conversation. I often go outside to listen to the sound. I found that all my things were the same. I sighed. I knew Liu Ruyan wouldn't leave. If she couldn't give me the perfect explanation and spring a surprise on me, I wouldn't be able to turn things around so easily when she returned. But this relaxed mood didn't last long. I discovered something was wrong. The safe in the house had been broken into. One day, Liu Ruyan asked me what was in the safe. I simply explained that it was something very important to me. She didn't ask many questions, but now the most important thing to me has disappeared. Finally, calm returned. I suddenly remembered something. I took the camera out of the closet and discovered that all the photos related to Liu Ruyan had been deleted. I swallowed. I couldn't really think about the reason. Liu Mu's phone rang. Xu Yan, are you okay? Do you want to move in with your mother? My beautiful eyebrows pouted. Mom, what do you mean? Liang Chen, let's go. Mom's worried you can't cope alone. I felt a void before my eyes. I barely held onto the chair next to me to keep my balance. How do you know that Liang Chen is dead? Escaped my lips. Liu Mu was also a little stunned. She only just found out about it now. It turns out I didn't tell Xu Yan. I want to hide this news. It seems I have a heart of iron. I don't want Xu Yan to recognize me. Liu Mu looked at it lightly. How do you know that it's no longer important? Without finishing my sentence, I simply hung up. He wouldn't dare. I didn't want to accept the fact that Liang Cheng was really gone. I went to my bedroom. I went to the place where I'd lain every day and every night for 7 years. Liang Chen, how could you leave? You must have conspired with my mother to lie to me, right? I know I went too far. I shouldn't have married Ida. I truly understand my mistake. I called him again, but no matter how many times I called, the only thing I heard on the other end was a warning tone telling me to disconnect. I was furious. Everything in the house was smashed to pieces. The shards fell on my head. But I didn't feel any pain at all. I slapped my palm. The red spot was about to start bleeding. Half an hour later, I called the hospital where Liang Chen's mother was staying. What did you say? Has Liang Chen's mother died? Yes, yesterday this man left, taking his mother's body. Do you know where he went? The opposite of how an apology should sound. I'm sorry, Ms. Liu, this is a personal matter. We have no idea. After I hung up the phone, my body began to shake uncontrollably. My mother died. No wonder it happened yesterday. My expression was so cold, a despair in my heart that cannot be described in words. From the bottom of my heart, I know how important my mother is to me. I also know why I can hug myself without fear. My mother is one of them too. That's a big reason. To this day, I want to get back what's left of me. The last path I took led me to prison where my father-in-law was held. The outcome only broke me further. Miss Liu Yi Zhenting has woken up. I instantly opened my eyes. When was this? Yesterday her son came to pick her up and they left together. Yesterday, it was yesterday. He had to make a difficult choice between the two. I only know that Liang Chen is in the north of the Qing Empire. Where he's going, I don't know either. My eyes lit up with hope. Qingbei is a special city. There are only 3 flights. As soon as I find a seat, I'll definitely find it. Human strength is limited. I started posting messages online promising a $1 million bonus for any tips about me in just a few days. I found out Liang Chen's exact address. I immediately completed the checkout procedure and scheduled the next flight to the ICC. I just returned home to pack my luggage. Zhang Yida appeared in front of me from behind. I pretend I don't remember him. I don't want to talk to you too much right now. I calmly pushed Zhang Yidu away. This is my home. Please go away. Zhang Yidu grabbed my hand as I was packing my luggage. He took out the already packed clothes. This action made me extremely angry. Zhang Yida, what the hell are you doing? I want to ask you. What are you going to do? Are you going to find Yi Liangchen? Figure it out yourself. He's gone. My eyes fill with tears. I raised my head to look at the white sky. I didn't let the tears flow. I don't care where you go. It's none of your business. I don't need to report to you in detail. Why is it none of my business? We're childhood friends. We're clearly the perfect match. Who is Yi Liangchen? What do you like about him? At the moment, I still don't want to reveal my identity. I think I'm too self-centered. Ruyan, look me in the eye and tell me honestly. If you don't love Yi Liangchen, why can't you accept me yet? Do you really dare to claim that you care about me at all? Zhang Yida's voice was filled with despair. I answered without hesitation, no. Zhang Yida's eyes instantly darkened, but my own gaze remained fixed on him. You don't love me, then why did you kiss me? Is it right to do that to someone you consider a stranger? Having said this, I was suddenly horrified by my own words. Suddenly, everything fell into place. Every step he took was just a desperate attempt to force me to surrender, and it wasn't at all that he couldn't be mine. He had countless chances to draw me closer, but he was afraid. Everything he did to me and put me through, it was a love born from a brokenness that I initially refused to understand, although deep down it seemed beautiful in its own way. Only I stubbornly turned a blind eye to it. Now, when I finally had the chance to end this scene, I realized all his torment was only a boost to my vanity, proving my unattainability. I deliberately maintained this dangerous ambiguity with Zhang Yida, deliberately abandoning me in front of the astonished public, wanting everyone around me to know about our connection. I sincerely believed I held all the strings in my hands, but I was sorely mistaken. My own arrogance, step by step, pushed me toward the abyss until I finally lost it. A long time passed before I looked up at Zhang Yidu and said guiltily, I'm sorry, I don't like you at all. I've always seen you as nothing more than a good friend. I guess I just couldn't look into my own heart before. He only smiled bitterly. Don't take it to heart. I promise we'll remain great friends in the future. Zhang Yida's eyes reflected all the pain in the world around him. For a long time, he cherished the hope that even the slightest glimmer of feeling for him lingered in my heart, and he was willing to be content with even that little. But now I shattered that illusion, confessing in a trembling voice, I never really loved him. But no, I don't want to be your friend anymore. Was everything that happened between us just a figment of my imagination? It was unbearably hard for me to say these cruel words, knowing how much pain they were causing Zhang Yide. But the longer I remained silent, the more frantic his gaze became. He quietly murmured, you're right, this ring isn't worth a fortune, but I was afraid to take it off because I gave it to you myself. The same goes for this hairpin. I came so close to you only to push you away once again and make you look bad. Forgive me for cynically using you for my own ends. Deep down, I expected Zhang Yida to explode with anger and have a severe emotional breakdown. But he remained frighteningly calm. Thank you for telling the truth, Ruyan. I know you'll still go look for Yi Liangchen. Perhaps we'll see each other again. Since you're here today, come join me one last time. Let's just have a drink and talk heart to heart, okay? Such gentleness made me uneasy. But I've already bought a ticket, Ruyan. Drink to our old friendship. Would you refuse? I've had my share of trials, too. I gave in and agreed. After all, I had indeed shamelessly exploited his feelings, and I felt a heavy burden of guilt on my conscience. An hour later, everything changed. Zhang Yida carefully arranged the appetizers he'd brought and filled my glass with wine. My consciousness was rapidly becoming clouded, and my thoughts were becoming confused. I wearily touched the wedding dress on the mannequin with my hand. Enough, that's enough for today. I can't drink anymore. But Zhang Yida continued pouring. The alcohol burned my throat, the world around me swam, and my head began to buzz. Ruyan, did you really think you could use me and just walk away? I won't let you go. Do you really want to throw this heart away? A strange pain suddenly pierced my face. What are you doing? Just sleep. It will all be over by dawn. I tried with all my might to fight sleep, clinging to the elusive reality. The outlines of the room blurred in the fog until the darkness completely engulfed me, knocking me unconscious. When I finally came to, I found myself locked in my own bedroom. The heavy doors and windows were boarded up and my phone was gone. All my cries for help were drowned out. The only window to the outside world was a video camera on the wall from which Zhang Yida's calm voice came. Ruyan, stay home for now. I'll be back from a business meeting soon. Only a moment later did the full horror of my situation dawn on me. I'd always thought of Zhang Yidu as a gentle and harmless man, especially given his low alcohol tolerance the night before. But now I realized this whole scene was a carefully orchestrated performance. Zhang Yidu, let me out immediately. Do you understand what you're doing? This is kidnapping, a criminal offense. I screamed into the camera lens, but all I got was silence. The monitor was silent. Exhausted, I sank to the floor with a groan, cursing my own blindness for trusting it and being left alone. An agonizing hour later, the lock finally clicked in the entryway. Zhang Yida opened the bedroom door, carrying hot containers of food. Hungry, I've specially commissioned the best chefs to prepare your favorite dishes, he cooed with a frighteningly gentle smile. But I looked at him as if I were a complete stranger. Zhang Yida, are you crazy? You realize you'll go to jail for this, right? His face didn't even flinch. This is your own home. Were you really rushing to leave? And where is the evidence against me? You'll soon realize I was right about everything. Yi Liangchen will never bring you happiness. Better to endure a short period of pain than to suffer a lifetime. Furious, I knocked all the fragile dishes off the table. The shards scattered across the floor, but Zhang Yida simply calmly wiped the splashes away with a napkin. He stared at me with a heavy gaze laced with bitter superiority. Do you think if I let you go to Yi Liangchen, you'd find peace? It would just be an endless cycle of self-torture. I choked with helplessness and said nothing. His eyes were filled with icy determination. Don't look at me like that. Since we're on the subject, I'll tell you the whole truth. Yi Liangchen's anger at that banquet wasn't accidental. I provoked him myself, deliberately humiliating his father and infuriating him. You didn't expect that from me, did you? Admit it, I did the right thing. My face twisted with anger. I always considered myself the jealous one in our relationship, but I couldn't imagine Zhang Yida capable of such a treacherous stab in the back. Why are you doing this? Why are you mercilessly trampling on what little I have left? Zhang Yida rose silently from the table. He loomed over me, his eyes a strange mixture of light and shadow rounding the furniture. Why, just so we could both finally be happy. I looked at him with a look full of hatred. Remember that day in the mountains when we fell off the slope? I didn't mean to drag you down with me, but in your panic you caught yourself in my seat belt. I instinctively tried to hold on as I fell into the abyss without any safety net. And you know what? I'm grateful for that chance. If we hadn't fallen together, you would never have looked at me differently. My lower lip was bitten until it bled. Of course, I remembered very well that fateful day and all the cruelty with which we treated each other then. You spent so much energy trying to destroy me and you still expected me to change my mind? Forget it. I erased all your attempts to find me only to preserve my dignity. Why do you continue to destroy us both? I thought despairingly, remembering my pretense of amnesia. You agreed to marry me without hesitation. What man would tolerate such humiliation? Listen to me, Ruyan. Come to your senses. Who do you think is better for you than me? Stop indulging yourself in meaningless illusions. As long as you're with me, I swear I'll make your life perfect. Strands of hair fell and thudded dully in the silence of the room. The slap echoed in the empty room like a gunshot. I poured all my pent-up anger into that blow. 5 bright red finger marks instantly appeared on Zhang Yida's cheek. Zhang Yida, you bastard, I screamed, but he simply straightened up silently. Without looking at me again, he said coldly, it seems you still don't understand anything. Stay here and think about your behavior. With these words, he slammed the door, leaving me trapped. I rushed to the exit, but the door was locked from the outside and he still had the cell phone. Running to the window, I assessed the height. Our apartment was on the 5th floor above a quiet courtyard garden. There was no other way out. Luckily, a sturdy climbing rope left over from a bygone era was lying around in the closet on the balcony. Having securely fastened it to my belt, I prepared to descend, desperately hoping that my plan would work. But at the most critical moment, just as my feet were about to touch the ground, the rope snapped with a loud crack. I plummeted, hitting the ground hard. My arms and legs stung from the cuts and blood appeared on my forehead, but the pain in my body was the least of my worries. Rising to my feet, I limped to the nearest mobile phone store, got my SIM card replaced, presented my documents, and immediately booked a new ticket to the ICC. Time was slipping through my fingers. I absolutely had to find him and explain myself, even though I knew he'd hardly believe me after everything he'd been through. 7 years of our love now seemed like a fragile house of cards, and he was left alone in the middle of this ashes. But I was no longer in those parts. Having left Nanshan with my mother's ashes, my father and I headed straight for the cold northern sea, my mother's birthplace. Before she died, she bequeathed to us the fulfillment of her last wishes, after completing all the funeral rituals. My father and I left these shores behind forever. After waiting for him to be cleared of all charges and released from custody, I went my own way. I sought out an old acquaintance who had once shared my imprisonment, for I had to prove my innocence with my own hands. All that remained was to hope that heaven would finally hear my prayer. We soon learned the bitter truth about the past. Back then, the confrontation between the influential Zhang clan and our Yi family was like a clash of fire and water, leaving no room for compromise. That same Zhang Yida from our marriage flashed through my mind. He dismissively threw in my face. For the humiliation that I suffered then because of you, I will still have to demand full payment from you. I had no intention of backing down or forgiving those who had wronged me. After months of painstaking investigation, the official charges against the Zhang family were finally filed and brought to trial. Once enough compelling evidence had been gathered, the prison doors would have slammed shut behind them for 7 long years. My father had suffered greatly during his years in prison, enduring countless humiliations and even missing the tragic last days of my mother's life. Now, as the first winter snow began to swirl outside the window, he was overcome with such intense emotions that he could barely catch his breath. But the next moment, remembering the hell I myself had endured during those years, E Sr. covered his face with his hands, and tears began to flow from his eyes. Looking at him, I felt a dull ache stirring in my own chest, mixed with deep forgiveness. Son, you've been unfairly trampled for so many years. My blindness and my weakness are to blame for everything, he whispered. Feeling my father's heart ready to burst with remorse, I silently approached. I hugged my father tightly, holding him close with a strength we hadn't felt since my earliest childhood. Years of estrangement and coldness evaporated. My mother's death had cruelly opened our eyes to a simple truth. In relationships with those closest to you, pride and stubbornness are the worst advisors, and a sincere expression of feelings is the only thing that truly carries weight. Dad, stop blaming yourself, forget about the past. Liu Mu and his family really do owe us too much, but I've already made them pay their dues. From now on, our main goal is to live for Mom's memory. Live with your head held high and grow stronger day by day. Let the whole world see that the Yi family is far from broken and is capable of rising from the ashes. Father and son, battered by the cruel storms of fate, still refused to give up. All these years of endless pursuit of the top of the business Olympus forced my father to think only of fabulous profits and expanding his influence. In this blind pursuit, he lost both his son and his wife, leaving him with nothing. This was his fatal mistake and a terrible disregard for what was most precious to him. Okay, Dad, enough of this self-flagellation. Now is not the time for bitter regrets and long conversations about the past. Our top priority is the complete revival of the Yi family's industrial empire. We stood at the very source of the ICC, and as soon as we have sufficient financial capital in our hands, we will triumphantly return to Nancheng to reclaim everything that rightfully belongs to our family. The tide outside the window was slowly but inexorably rising. A cool sea breeze ruffled my hair, washing my face with a refreshing coolness. Everything that had lain hidden in the shadows and remained unsolved for years was now taking shape, and my father's and my heart's beat in unison. Exactly 6 months of hard work passed, and we were able to not only recreate the Yi group of companies in the thriving city of Binhai, but also control half the local economy. My days and nights consisted of endless meetings, strategy sessions, and brutal expansion. At the same time, I methodically collected ironclad evidence against Zhang's group, setting myself the goal of erasing their name from the business map forever. The world of big business is cruel and teeming with ruthless predators. Looking back, I clearly saw my own colossal potential, forged in the fire of betrayal. I had once nearly paid with my life for someone else's games, but now I acted with cold calculation. I responded to all attempts to establish contact with a polite but icy refusal, for romantic feelings had forever ceased to be a vital necessity for me. Meanwhile, all of Binhai knew me by sight. Every resident of this vast city understood my mission and status perfectly. And although fate loves to make devious plans, I already had an army of admiring girls lined up behind me. As soon as I appeared in public, crowds of female spectators at the outdoor screens would squeal with delight. My God, Mr. Yi is incredibly handsome. It reached the point of madness. If I were allowed to marry the heir of the Yi family, I would be ready to do absolutely anything. Could such an ideal man really belong to someone ordinary? The crowd of onlookers buzzed with excitement, demanding my attention. Somewhere in the background of this noisy crowd, the solitary figure of Liu Ruyan, burning with bitter remorse, was lost. That same brilliant man, deserving of unconditional respect, had lost absolutely everything solely through his own stupidity and cruelty. Had he not made fatal mistakes in the past, the entire city would now envy his good fortune. But exactly 6 months ago, he first set foot on the icy shores of the Northern Sea. Unable to find me right away, he spent a whole month in the frozen coastal town without hearing a word from the locals. Later, returning here again and again, it was as if he were trudging through the pitch-black hell of a devil's tent until he finally tracked me down here. This time he swore to himself that he would never let me go under any circumstances. At precisely 11 a.m. in the corporation's vast office building, only a single light remained on in my office. I was sitting at my monitor, my brows slightly furrowed, completely immersed in my work schedules, so I didn't hear any extraneous sounds at the entrance. It was only when a familiar, trembling voice broke the silence that my thoughts abruptly stopped. Liang Chen, I haven't seen you for 6 months. My face remained impassive, though the familiar scent of bitter memories wafted faintly through the air. Liu Ruyan looked at the man with whom he had lived side by side for 7 long years, feeling like a complete stranger. A storm of frayed nerves and a torturous search tore at my soul. Liang Chen, I've finally found you. Do you have any idea what a nightmare I've been through during this time? I was exhausted and had forgotten what normal sleep was. Frankly, I hadn't expected to encounter Liu Ruyan in this place, and I certainly didn't want to engage in any conversation with him. Without saying a word, I simply slammed the lid of my laptop, stood up from the table, and silently walked past the man standing frozen in the doorway. Yi Liang Chen, stop! A desperate cry echoed off the walls of the corridor. Deep down, he probably hoped I'd stop, listen to his excuses, or at least allow a brief pause in our silence. But I didn't even slow down. I strode confidently toward the elevator and pressed the call button. Noticing my movement, Liu Ruyan leaped up and gave chase, but the elevator doors slammed shut right in his face, leaving him standing in the empty corridor, his face contorted in pain. Tears streamed down his cheeks like a waterfall. He was bitterly aware of the extent to which I now despised him, so much so that I couldn't even breathe the same air as him. Things used to be different. I was always the one who fell flat on my face, patiently wrapping exquisite flower arrangements for him and hunting down the rare gifts he secretly dreamed of. He loved expensive little things, but he considered accepting them from my hands beneath his dignity. There were times when he'd throw my gifts on the floor in a rage, and I'd then secretly pick up the broken pieces at night. But now the wheel of fortune has turned full circle and we've swapped places. Now he's known the depths of prison walls and the contempt of the crowd. But once upon a time, 7 years ago, I was a simple boy from a poor family while he shone at the pinnacle of school success. His father was a huge moneymaker in business, while my mother worked modestly as a witness to other people's success. The irony was that it was the Liu Empire that controlled a whopping 70% of the region's economic power. In a difficult moment, it was Liu Ruyan's mother who extended a helping hand to the Yi family, paying off all our debts and paying for my higher education. After graduating, faced with an insurmountable wall of obligations, I was forced to turn to Liu Mu. The man plunged into deep thought, weighing all the risks and benefits. A pragmatic businessman, he decided the timing was perfect and wanted to make me his son-in-law. If you really want to repay our family's debts in full, just marry Zhuyan. He has complicated feelings for you, but he's too domineering and authoritarian. He needs someone who can curb his temper and take care of him. So, do you agree? He merely nodded affirmatively at my silence. I had no choice and Liu Mu had to make concessions. Fine, I won't keep you tied down. We'll sign a contract for exactly 7 years. If after that you still want to leave, I won't hold you back. And while the contract is in effect, I'll pay you a fixed monthly salary. I silently signed the papers. My father was awaiting release from prison at the time, and my mother was in dire need of expensive medical treatment, which we couldn't afford. Gritting my teeth, I embarked on this path, demonstratively seeking the favor of the capricious Liu Ruyan. Everyone knew how fanatically Liu Ruyan adored his purebred dog. One dead winter night, at exactly 3 in the morning, I drove 300 kilometers along a snowy highway to deliver him a rare crystal talisman for his pet. Outside, there was a bitter frost of -30 degrees, piercing to the bones. I stood at the wrought iron gates of his luxurious villa for exactly 4 hours, waiting for him to deign to pick up the rare item he'd ordered at auction. After a month of such humiliating courtship, Liu Ruyan finally deigned to pay attention to me. The wedding ceremony was rushed through in just 7 days, and I naively believed that I could live out those contract years in peace and relative safety. Who could have foreseen the true nightmare that would begin after the wedding? Liu Ruyan would deliberately spill water on the perfectly clean floor and force me to crawl on my knees with a rag. He knew full well about my severe allergy to strong alcohol. But on his birthday, when his friends were getting completely drunk, he dragged me to noisy restaurants late at night, forcing me to wait on the company. Awakened in the middle of the night, mentally and physically exhausted, I shed countless tears into my pillow. And now, in this echoing Binhai office building, the elevator opened, revealing an aged and tear-stained Liu Ruyan. He intuitively sensed that I couldn't simply vanish from this building, but the moment he saw me from afar, an icy wave washed over his heart. The security manager addressed the intruder politely but sternly. "MS, I mean young man, this facility is closed to outsiders. You need to leave the building with us." Liu Ruyan shook his head frantically. "No, I'm not going anywhere. I have to wait for Yi Liangcheng to return. The guard sighed heavily in frustration. If this visitor refuses to comply voluntarily, we will have to call the police to forcibly remove him. Seeing the security guard's unwavering determination, Liu Ruyan was forced to dejectedly descend under escort. Just before leaving, he cast a wistful glance upward in the direction of my office, consoling himself with the illusion, "It's okay. The main thing is that now I know where he is. That means I still have a chance to fix everything." In the following days, Liu Ruyan would invariably appear at the front entrance at exactly 8:30 a.m., stubbornly remaining there until midnight, even though I would leave through the service exit and he would not hear my voice for weeks. Finally, he tried to get the same guard who had escorted him out on his first day to talk. The guard shrugged. "Listen, I'm just a hired hand. We're strictly forbidden from talking about Mr. Yi's personal life. But as a human being, I advise you to get out of here as soon as possible. Binhai is full of powerful and beautiful women who have had their eye on Mr. Yi for a long time." The words were devastating, but the guard saw only the lonely, hunched back of Liu Ruyan as he left. I didn't need to explain anything to the staff because Liu Ruyan knew my tough character and unbending will better than anyone. The guard simply stated the obvious. This man would never surrender voluntarily, even if his final destruction lay ahead. I left the office promptly at midnight, exhausted from work since the morning. After 10 days of relentless anticipation, he finally waited for me. For half a month, Liu Ruyan had barely slept. His eyes were sunken and his gaze had grown heavy and deep. Although he himself was clearly exhausted from illness and fatigue, he didn't linger at the door but quickly followed me into the spacious hall. "Yi Liangchen, let's finally have this frank talk, okay? Even if we're parting forever, everything must be crystal clear," he said in the silence. Deep down, I clearly understood. If I don't dot the I's and cross the T's, Liu Ruyan will never leave me alone. I glanced at my wristwatch and nodded silently in agreement. After leading him out of the building, I brought Liu Ruyan to the nearest coffee shop. "Hurry up, I have exactly 1 hour to give you my time," I said coldly. My tone made Liu Ruyan slightly startled. At that moment, he felt as if that same distant, cold student from his distant past was standing before him again. "Yi Liangchen, do you really want to ruin the rest of our lives like this?" he blurted out. My patience was quickly wearing thin. I hadn't expected Liu Ruyan to start asking such questions, completely missing the point of what I was saying. I desperately wanted to get up and leave, but memories of the past and the unexpected sight of Liu Ruyan's mother made me pause for a moment. I smiled bitterly and not a drop of the former warmth remained in my eyes, only a naked, pitiless emptiness. After all, we had never had a real wedding, nor a stamp in our passports. Strictly speaking, we weren't husband and wife at all, and in this Liu Ruyan was absolutely right. Once, wanting to humiliate and subjugate me, he himself had rudely refused my request to marry and seal our union with an official document. The irony was that now this formality had become his own trap. The cup of coffee he brought seemed like a dim reflection of a broken mirror. He'd never truly valued me, but the bitterness of that conversation pales in comparison to the 1,000 shades of pain I'd endured with Liang Chen. We may not have been officially married, but we spent 7 long years together, and that's an undeniable fact. "I refuse to believe you could be so cruel," he said, despair in his voice. Hearing the word cruel, a chink finally appeared in my perfect armor. Yes, I'm cruel, but hadn't he himself trampled on my mother's cherished memory, accusing me of heartlessness? "Liang Chen," he whispered. I was in unbearable pain when my mother was dying, but he had no right to bully me through my grief. Before I could finish speaking, he interrupted me. "Did I make you feel this pain? If you hadn't lied to me, your mother would never have ended up abroad and died. What did I lie to you about? Didn't I give you that doctor's contact information? What did I have to do with what happened?" My eyes turned red with anger. The rage in my chest was reaching boiling point, threatening to erupt in a destructive storm. I took a deep breath, trying to regain control. "Liu Ruyan, you're a brilliant actor, but that phone number you gave me that time turned out to be a fake." "What?" I snapped at him. Stunned, Liu Ruyan pulled out his smartphone with trembling fingers and frantically dialed the ill-fated contact. Listening to the muffled mechanical beeps on the other end of the line, he lost track of what he was doing and repeated the same movement over and over again. "How is this possible? This is the number Zhang Yida gave me. Why does it lead to nowhere?" Horror froze in his eyes. I clenched my fists. Suddenly his knees gave way and he collapsed straight onto the tiled floor, drawing the frightened glances of all the patrons in the establishment. "Yi Liangchen, what are you even talking about? You heard it perfectly well, and I'm not going to repeat it twice," I replied harshly. Liu Ruyan was completely broken. All these years, everyone around him had considered him the undisputed leader in our relationship, the one who held all the strings and guided my every move. Only Liu Ruyan himself knew perfectly well how passive and dependent he truly was. He behaved like a possessed madman, and every movement or glance of mine sent a sharp pain through his heart. At the same time, I always remained as cold as a bullet, watching his hysterics with serene calm, and sometimes even finding the strength to apologize just to regain the illusion of control. Now, with cold calm, I declared to the face of the man who had been crazy about me for years that I had never loved him. You never loved me, then why did you have to put on such a show, talk nonsense, and pretend you were ready to do anything for me? He screamed in despair. The forgotten coffee was cooling on the table between us. To put it bluntly, it was all held together by a sense of duty and gratitude to his family. Liu Ruyan blinked in confusion, completely surprised to hear such a primitive and cold answer. After our marriage, he sincerely believed in reciprocity. What debt? He whispered. My father was framed back then, and my mother was gravely ill, leaving the Yi family on the brink of financial ruin. It was your Aunt Liu who helped us pay off all our debts and allowed me to graduate. And after I graduated, Aunt Liu set a condition. She offered me this marriage as a token of her gratitude. The contract was for exactly 7 years, after which I would be completely free to leave. And now that that time has come to an end, I'm simply taking back my life. My words hit him with the force of a falling sky, instantly shattering his illusions. All that love and dedication he'd been so proud of turned out to be nothing more than a settlement of old scores. Only then did it dawn on him why I'd suddenly turned my attention to him during my university years and allowed myself to be drawn into this relationship. He naively assumed I was tempted by his exalted status as a god, when in reality I was simply trying to save my family and survive, unaware of the intrigues being woven behind the scenes. No wonder his mother knew everything from the very beginning, while he himself remained a blind fool. Now he realized with horror the absurdity of his previous illusions. He sincerely believed that he had earned my love, that I was locked in a golden cage with no chance of escape, and that he was my only support in this world. Looking at me with eyes full of desperate pleading, he forced out a question that made even my heart clench for a second. Have you loved me even for a moment over these years? I honestly didn't know if I'd ever felt true feelings for him. All I could remember were endless manipulations, deceit, and the walls I'd built around myself to protect myself. Over the years, this mixture of weariness and pain had turned into a dull hatred. His response was a heavy, deathly silence. Unabated, Liu Ruyan continued to torment himself and me. Do you hate me? Perhaps it's better to have hatred than emptiness. The main thing is that I occupy at least some place in your heart, love or hate, it doesn't matter anymore. I thought again, looking at the man who had been by my side for 7 long years. A person isn't a callous weed. If all those years had been filled with sincerity, perhaps I could truly love him. But how can one forget what I had to endure? I knew better than anyone how much I hated him before. Now there was no longer even hatred, only a scorched desert and the absolute end of our relationship. Liu Ruyan's eyes instantly filled with tears. Upon hearing my final verdict, he no longer tried to contain his emotions, and tears streamed down his face. Now we truly were strangers, no different from passers-by on the street. If you hadn't been so cruel to me from the start, if I hadn't driven you so crazy, would you have been able to love me? Escaped his lips. I remained deaf to his pleas. Liu Ruyan's eyes betrayed only the bitter realization of his own karma. In this world, no one can escape responsibility for their actions, and sooner or later everyone pays their debts. My words were quiet but weighty, like a sentence. I silently glanced at the clock face. Exactly the allotted hour had passed. Without turning around, I rose from the table and confidently headed for the exit, leaving my past behind. No one noticed Liu Ruyan's tears. They dripped onto the table like broken beads from a necklace. After crying alone for a while, he finally wiped his face. Giving up wasn't his style. He was determined to change my mind. The next morning, Liu Ruyan showed up at my company's door with a carefully crafted resume in hand. He firmly believed in the well-known truth that water wears away stone, and with this ineradicable persistence, he crossed the threshold of the reception room. When I saw Liu Ruyan at the reception desk, my expression instantly darkened. Without hiding my irritation, I snapped at the receptionist, "I don't want to see her here tomorrow," without even giving the manager a chance to defend himself. Despite the public humiliation and the cold refusal of the corporation's head, Liu Ruyan did not even think of retreating, although deep resentment was visible in his eyes. Look at me, do I deserve this treatment? I haven't done anything wrong, and we haven't even officially divorced yet, his gaze silently screamed. The guards surrounded him delicately but firmly. "Miss, I mean, young man, please come with us to complete the necessary procedures. You will be compensated. Liu Ruyan categorically refused to leave. Stubbornly pressed into a chair in the hall, he muttered through clenched teeth, I'm not going anywhere. Let them try to force me out. The workday was inexorably drawing to an end. The scene unfolded before the eyes of numerous employees. My God, it seems to be that same girl. Hasn't she been on duty here every day for months? It turns out she's been watching Mr. Yi this whole time, whispered the crowd. Many recalled the guard's tales of her fanatical tenacity. What impudence! An ordinary person dares to count on the favor of Mr. Yi himself. The evil tongues around him gradually flared up more and more, but Liu Ruyan no longer cared about other people's opinions. He no longer needed to return to his old life, for all bridges had been burned. Suddenly, he caught himself wondering, did those poisonous rumors that had once wounded him now seem so trivial compared to the real pain? The situation had reached a complete impasse. There was no point in staying here any longer. Having experienced an inner death, Liu Ruyan silently turned and walked out of the building, the hum behind him gradually fading, leaving him alone with the crushing emptiness in his chest. Wandering aimlessly through the evening streets, he stopped at the first quiet bar he came across. Bring me something stronger to dull the pain from a distance, he said wearily to the bartender as soon as he stepped through the door. Are you sure? Strong cocktails are expensive here and the effect is immediate, the bartender warned. For the first time in a long time, Liu Ruyan raised his head and looked at him with a dull gaze. Price doesn't matter, pour me 2 glasses at once. Although he wasn't exactly built like a hero, he knew how to drink. Even after 2 servings of strong alcohol, he immediately ordered several more types of light wine. But in his state, it no longer mattered. The memories came rushing back with renewed vigor. The alcohol rushed to his head, the world around him spun in a drunken whirlpool, and his legs became unresponsive. When a worried waiter tried to come to his aid, Liu Ruyan waved him off. Let me call you a taxi and take you home, he heard through the haze, and at that moment Liu Ruyan's eyes suddenly opened, returning to harsh reality. I kept yelling at her, what are you doing? Stay away from me. If you lay a finger on me, I'll call the police. Liu Ruyan screamed back just as loudly as I did. This little clay figurine looked even more impressive next to me. A nasty temper just like my appetite, her slender fingers. Liu Ruyan's bow covered them, but she had too little strength to change anything, and she was clearly unable to stop them, just when she was in despair. We were briefly battered in a scuffle, and after we were detained, the guards took us to the station. When everything calmed down, Liu Ruyan and I were left alone. She immediately rushed to my side. I held her head in my arms. She kept repeating, Liang Chen, I knew you'd come. I knew you wouldn't abandon me in such trouble. Liu Ruyan's tears continued unabated. I carefully pulled away and wiped the moisture from her face. I was still wearing the same formal blue and white suit. I coolly told her not to get carried away. Don't get worked up. I'm just planning on buying this building. I'm worried that problems at the entrance might hurt its market value, that's all. Besides, I was just passing by, pure coincidence. Consider yourself lucky. Upon hearing my answer, she froze. All Liu Ruyan felt was that my heart was shattered into 1,000 pieces. She felt as if after everything that had happened, it would never be restored. She was trembling. Liu Ruyan's eyes were filled with hurt. Are you serious? Is this true? You're lying to me, right? You're just blaming me for mistreating you, and now you're punishing me so harshly. You'll come home with me when you've recovered a bit, right? Her face was pale. Liu Ruyan looked as if a light wind could blow her away. She desperately awaited my answer, but upon hearing it, it was as if she'd fallen through ice. I just thought, Liu Ruyan, don't let your obsession trap you. You and I are going our separate ways, that's how it's always been, I snapped, waving my hand. Send this lady to the nearest hotel. Liu Ruyan meekly climbed into the car after the driver. The autumn breeze made her shiver slightly. The driver cast a sympathetic glance at Liu Ruyan. She sighed, Mistress, listen, Mr. Yi doesn't love you at all. Don't be so fixated on him and your appearance. You'll find someone better. Mr. Yi isn't the kind of person you can easily touch. Feeling humiliated, Liu Ruyan began to cry again. I remained silent, but when we got to the hotel, I touched her anyway. Liu Ruyan fell asleep as soon as we arrived. Jai Weiju's patience was at an end. He couldn't bear it any longer when he woke up. It was the second night. I saw dozens of missed calls on my phone. Liu Ruyan was very worried when I finally answered. Liu Miu. But I was afraid that my mother would start to worry and interfere in this matter. I won't marry into the Zhang family. We're fine, so why would I want to? The Liu family must remain the same, she insisted. Of course you don't have to, but your father's assets are in serious trouble. If we don't replenish the accounts, we'll go bankrupt. Ruyan, stop wasting your time on Yi Liangchen, do you hear me? Mom begged her to leave me alone. Liu Ruyan's eyes lit up with hope again. Mom, wait, I have a plan. I'll go to Liangchen for help. You owe him a favor. Even if he hates me, he won't abandon our family. Hearing this, Liu Ruyan's mother thought she'd completely lost her mind. Ruyan, what's wrong with you? The Yi family fell apart a long time ago. Even if Yi Zhenting got out of prison, they live in the south and barely make ends meet. How can they help us? Liu Mu quickly explained. But she didn't know that I, Liang Chen, had long since established myself in the Ice Sea. Group E had been rebuilt, and in just 6 months we had taken a leading position, controlling 80% of the region's economy. If I were willing to help, we could overcome any difficulties. Liu Ruyan's mother fell silent on the phone. I always treated Liu Ruyan's father with respect, even when I was his son-in-law. I appreciated his kindness, but his daughter never took me seriously. 7 years had passed and I still wanted to leave. If only Liu Ruyan could make me change my mind. Maybe this is a bad idea, Liu Mu sighed helplessly. Well, if Liang Chen doesn't help, you'll just have to go home. I know, Mom, Liu Ruyan replied, turning off the phone. Her heart was full of determination. Despite my mother's promises, only I knew how much Liu Ruyan hated me. Throughout our entire relationship, I felt no warmth for her. Everything I did in the past came back to me. How I knelt to mop up the water, how I cooked her a dozen different breakfasts every morning, how I traveled hundreds of kilometers just to find the doll she wanted, and when I finally abandoned her for good, she regretted it. But nothing could be done to save Liu Ruyan. The more she thought about it, the more intense the pain became. It was as if an invisible hand were squeezing her throat, preventing her from breathing. There was no way out. No matter how difficult it was, she had to make me answer the call. If I returned to Nanchang permanently, there would be no trace of understanding left between us. This call was important both for the Yi family and for herself. Liu Ruyan called again and again. I didn't answer. When she called for the 7th time, the connection was lost. I blocked her number for good. I turned off my phone and didn't sleep all night. All this belonged only to her, but her heart still ached with pain. Her breath caught in her throat, her chest felt empty. When the sun rose, she came to my company. She heard there was a press conference that evening and assumed I'd definitely be there. Liu Ruyan was waiting for me in the underground garage when I saw her again. Not a muscle moved on my face. I opened the door as usual, but Liu Ruyan blocked my way. The Liu family is in trouble. Only you can save us. I involuntarily softened. The press conference has worn me out, Liu Ruyan. Aren't you tired of it? How many more lies are you going to tell me to make me laugh? I haven't believed you from the start. Liu Ruyan quickly defended herself. No, I'm not lying. If you don't believe me, ask my mother. There wasn't a hint of pretense on her worried face. But I don't want to interfere in your family's affairs. Yes, you did me a favor, but I've repaid you handsomely. 7 years is plenty of time to pay off the debt. She understood perfectly well what I meant. She began to blame herself. Liang Chen, forgive me. Do you think I didn't look for you? I owe you too much. Come back, I'll leave Zhang Yidi and marry you. Hearing Zhang Yidi's name, I tensed up. I'm a sensitive person. What are you talking about? Do you want to marry Zhang Yidu? Liu Ruyan got it all wrong again. She thought I was jealous, and that gave her hope. She tried her best to hide the joy in her heart. Yes, the Liu family's financial chain is broken. If I don't marry Zhang Yidu, we'll go bankrupt. In fact, it was he who locked me up, took my phone and documents. Understand, she blurted out. I narrowed my eyes. A suspect's face usually gives them away. How long did he keep you locked up? 2 days. A faint smile played across my face. I've already collected evidence of problems within Zhang's group. Now that it's revealed that Zhang Yida has been illegally detaining people, it will be the final nail in the coffin for the Zhang family. Are you willing to testify against him? Prove he held you back. Do you have proof? I asked calmly, considering the information. Liu Ruyan didn't hide her emotions. She nodded excitedly. Yes, Zhang Yida installed a camera in my bedroom. I broke it, but the repairman can fix it. And there's another camera in the living room. When I mentioned the actual camera, my expression became complicated. Do you like playing spy? I asked, and Liu Ruyan suddenly blushed. I wasn't wrong. He was watching her every move. She'd secretly installed the camera in the living room herself, but she didn't expect it to be useful now. Liu Ruyan suddenly remembered everything. And the location tracking app she installed on my phone when she found me at the airport. The program no longer worked. She thought it was a glitch, but judging by my words, I figured it out long ago. I laughed. It seems you realize that I already know everything. I adjusted the belt on my chest. Get ready, we're heading back to Nanchang tomorrow, I said. Liu Ruyan decided I'd changed my mind. She was literally beaming with joy, but I was only thinking about how to make sure the Zhang family couldn't get up when Zhang Yida saw me next to Liu Ruyan. He had such a gloomy look. Yi Liangchen, did you really come back with Ruyan? What's wrong? Did the outside world prove too much for you and you decided to come running back here? What kind of cheap trick have you come up with this time? You even wore a limited edition suit, as if that would make a difference. Liu Ruyan turned around with disdain, eyeing my figure. He finally deigned to take me back, expecting me to be obedient, but I no longer needed to grovel before him. I snapped at him, Zhang Yida, watch your language and speak to me with respect. A dark shadow of anger flickered in Zhang Yida's eyes. Wipe this world off the face of the earth for these two, Ruyan. What kind of potion did this Yi slip you that he made you look like this? I hissed angrily. Even if you bring Yi Liangchen back, it won't do any good. The marriage between the Liu family and the Zhang family is a done deal, and you don't want to see the Liu company go under, do you? As for Yi Liangchen, if he's so eager to serve, let him remain a simple manager. I'll throw him a bone when I'm in a good mood. At that moment, several bodyguards silently appeared behind me. They were all loyal men from our circle, well-versed in how to ensure blows left no trace. Only a few minutes passed. Zhang Yida was already lying on the floor, completely drained of strength to resist, but he continued to spew threats. Yi Liangchen, don't think you're the strongest here. When I return to the Zhang family, I'll destroy you in no time. His pitiful cries were cut short by my kick right to the face. Zhang Yida, you still don't get it? Your golden days are finally over. He blinked in confusion, unable to grasp the meaning of my words. At that moment, Jingaming appeared nearby, wearing a law enforcement uniform. Zhang Yida abruptly lowered his gaze, instantly losing all his arrogance. The policeman presented a document and said, "You've been reported for illegal activity. Come with us." Zhang Yida looked up at Liu Ruyan in horror. Without waiting for a single word from Liu Ruyan, the guards led Zhang Yidu to the police car. Soon, he was sitting in the interrogation room. Stunned by panic and impotent rage, he held out hope until the very end that his influential relatives would figure everything out and rescue him. A day passed, but instead of the Zhang family's lawyers, I appeared in the room. So, Zhang Yida, are you still waiting for the Zhang clan to send rescuers for you? Your father clearly has no time for you right now. The man who screwed the Yi family over 7 years ago is your dearest parent, right? I snapped, to which Zhang Yida only laughed loudly and nervously. So what if he went unpunished for so many years? Do you really think old sins will just come to light? Yi Liangchen, don't think too highly of yourself, he tried to brag. I slowly reached into my pocket, pulled out an old photograph, and silently placed it on the table in front of him. Do you recognize this man? The moment your gaze fell on the photograph, you understood everything. Zhang Yida's face instantly became deeply lined. The man in the photo was a former employee of our E-group and also a key witness, bribed by the Zhang clan. He sat before me, completely stunned. I laid another document in front of him. This man is also well aware of the dirty tricks your clan has been carrying out behind your back. Yi Liangchen, what the hell are you trying to achieve with this? He squealed, but I just looked at him as if he were empty space. Do you think only your friends are allowed to have fun in nightclubs? I've spent too many years gathering dirt on the Zhang family. All the evidence I've collected will not only ruin the Zhang clan's reputation, but also ensure that all of Nanshan will know about it. Zhang Yida knew all too well that I wasn't bluffing. He personally oversaw most of these criminal schemes. Now his family is trapped with no escape routes left. His former arrogance was gone and he hung his head dejectedly. What should I do now? I can force the Zhang family to back down, he muttered. I looked at his face, distorted with despair, and only smirked. Zhang Yida, how stupid you are. I'm not here to bargain with you. Brushing invisible dust from my clothes, I headed for the exit. Before leaving, I cast him a parting glance. Zhang Yida had slumped limply in his chair, completely crushed by reality. Deep down, he understood the reason. None of his influential relatives even tried to come to his aid, because their own home was already collapsing. Soon, Liu Ruyan was brought to the police station, holding a small USB flash drive, as soon as he plugged it into his computer. All the recordings from the living room were displayed on the screen, including the moment when Zhang Yida forcibly locked Liu Ruyan in the bedroom. The evidence was overwhelming, and Zhang Yida ultimately received a prison sentence for false imprisonment. The news instantly spread throughout the city. Zhang's business empire was thrown into shock, their shares plummeted, and crowds of reporters waited outside the headquarters. Journalists besieged the building, shouting, "Where is Mr. Zhang? Explain to us, did your family really frame Group E 7 years ago?" The public demanded answers for the poor quality of products and the outright gangster methods of eliminating competitors that the Zhang clan used. That same day, the police escorted the clan's leader, Zhang Sr., out of his office, and details of corruption scandals began pouring out into the media. It has become known for certain that the leadership and lawyers of the Zhang Corporation were behind the downfall of Chairman Yi Zhengting 7 years ago. I sat in front of the TV and calmly watched the news, feeling a heavy but sweet wave of relief rise inside me. 7 years of humiliation and struggle finally came to an end, and my family's honor was completely restored while the Zhang clan was crumbling before our eyes. For a spoiled brat like Zhang Yida, prison life will be the best lesson, and the loss of everything most precious will be a well-deserved punishment. At that moment, Liu Ruyan's soft voice rang out from behind me. "Congratulations, Liangchen. Your father's grudge has finally been washed away, and the Liu family's business is gradually returning to normal." I looked at him coldly. "Don't have any illusions. I didn't help you to revive our past relationship, but only to achieve my own goal." Liu Ruyan's lips twitched, and he asked in confusion, "So, you didn't do this out of feelings for me, but purely for the sake of cold revenge?" "Exactly," was my short answer, which literally took the ground from under Liu Ruyan's feet, because all this time he had been comforting himself with hopes of a reunion. Gathering his strength, he quietly asked, "When you left and took the things from the safe, what exactly was inside?" "To be honest, it was my mother's ring, which she left to my future wife," I replied, seeing tears welling up in his eyes. Liu Ruyan's voice broke. "But you never gave it to me." I looked at him without a trace of compassion. "Because you were never my wife." Liu Ruyan's face twisted in pain from the realization, but he understood perfectly well that after everything he had done, even such a conversation with me was already an act of mercy. "Liangchen, forgive me for everything," escaped his lips for the first time in 7 years of our acquaintance. However, the time had been lost, and his belated apologies were no longer absolutely necessary to me. When he tried to add something, I had already turned my back to him, finally leaving the past behind. For the first time since returning to Nanchang, I went to the cemetery to see my mother, carefully brushed the dust off the cold stone, and quietly said, "Mom, you can sleep peacefully, we have won." I still felt guilty inside for not having seen the truth in time, but time moved inexorably forward. Having left fresh flowers at the tombstone, I silently left this place, fulfilling the promise I made to my father. Just 3 years later, the new structure I created had taken over 90% of the Nanchang market, and my face was plastered all over the city's main screens. Both men and women around me look at me with genuine admiration. Yi Liangchen has truly achieved the incredible. Not only does he look impeccable, but he also possesses an iron grip, thanks to which the Yi Group's assets have doubled in such a short time. "With Yi Liangchen's looks and status, you couldn't ask for a better husband," whispers the crowd. Some dream of at least getting a job as his secretary to be closer to their idol. But others immediately besiege the dreamers. To him, we're all just mere mortals, so what marriage are we even talking about? It's better to just follow his example. In the midst of this jubilant crowd, only one person is hiding in a medical mask, Liu Ruyan, bitterly hanging on every word of those around him. Listening to the cheers from all sides, he feels only a burning bitterness in his mouth, looking at my face on the huge screen. If he had realized his mistakes even a little earlier and been able to show sincerity, then now he would be standing at the top next to me, but you can't turn back time. An unbridgeable chasm has long since formed between us. I stand at the top and he is lost below, and our paths will never cross again, remaining cold parallel lines. As if tasting the bitter wind and his own breath, he weakly raises his hand to the screen one last time, silently saying goodbye to me forever, knowing that mountains and rivers will no longer bring us together.